Is it time for an election?
I think it is time for an election, Eamon, but it's not just about us as an opposition. I think people I speak to on the doorsteps up and down the country are losing patience with this Conservative government. It's like this ongoing Conservative soap opera. We've got this merry-go-round of prime ministers and of chancellors of the Exchequer, huge instability in the government. We seem to be back to that position now with the latest Conservative prime minister's authority shredded once again. And it really is time to give the British people their say, rather than having a government in office where, frankly, its only purpose is trying to secure its own survival, really isn't in the interests of the country. I think it is for the British people to have their say as soon as possible. And that, frankly, is what the Prime Minister should be doing, rather than just continuing in this way, causing damage to the country, which is what's happening.
How will you be voting on the bill tomorrow, and how will your party, when you speak for Labour as well tomorrow?
We won't be supporting the Rwanda plan. We believe it is an unworkable, failing, astronomically expensive scheme. So far, the government has spent £290 million, and that, at the moment, has produced travel to and from Rwanda for 3 Conservative Home Secretaries. And frankly, the government is just continuing to throw good money after bad on this scheme, when actually what they should be doing is the difficult, painstaking work that's required to stop people crossing the channel in these very vulnerable small boats. And first and foremost, I would suggest redirect that money to a new cross-border policing unit within the National Crime Agency that can bust the criminal smuggler gangs, get a grip of the asylum system here in the UK, 165,000 people at the moment stuck in it, 56,000 in hotels, and get the returns agreements as well, which mean that people who have no right to be here can be returned. That's the hard work that's required to deal with this, not this continuing gimmick.
Yeah, although there's no redirecting of the funds, obviously that's been spent. You'd have to find new money in order to do that. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, says that if Labour doesn't vote for his bill tomorrow, then you're not serious about stopping the boats.
He isn't serious about stopping the boats, given his continuation with this, frankly, quite ridiculous scheme. And in relation to your point about money, of course we accept we may not be able to get back money that's already been handed over to the Rwanda government. But the government has also allocated money for the next financial year. They've allocated £50 million, which, of course, we could redirect to a cross-border policing unit. And that's precisely what we would do. You know, I've been in the past down to Dover. I've been across to Paris. I understand the complications of this issue. People don't simply become refugees in northern France. People are usually traveling several thousand miles, being exploited by these criminal smuggler gangs. And it's that hard work we need to do internationally to bust their business model and to prevent people getting onto the channel in the first place.
Facetious here or in any way irrelevant, but Nick, Nigel Farage in the jungle, has he pushed the cause of democracy in any way? Does he form a better link between guys like yourself and the electorate?
Well, look, I haven't watched it this year, Eamon. I've obviously seen the coverage that Nigel Farage came third as Matt Hancock did last year. I suppose, Nigel Farage isn't a sitting MP, whereas I thought Matt Hancock going to the jungle as a sitting MP was the wrong thing to do. I thought Matt Hancock should have been serving his constituents. Look, Nigel Farage is a free citizen. He can do what he wishes. But I thought it's interesting, listening to some of your earlier coverage, how desperate the Conservative Party is becoming. Talking about Nigel Farage, talking, it seems, about bringing back Boris Johnson as, disgraced former Prime Minister. They've already brought back one former Prime Minister in recent weeks. So they're seriously now talking about bringing back another. It's just, as I say, this continuing Tory chaos just isn't putting the country first.
To be fair, they've got more to choose from than Labour. They've had more successful prime ministers. But may I just ask you finally, you know, lots of Labour politicians quite, what's the word I'm looking for, complacent, sitting back, looking and think that they can just win the next election. Would a coalition between Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage be more of an electoral threat than the current Conservatives? Can you just tell me that?
I think it would be a coalition of desperation. In relation to your first point, just for a moment, the Conservatives have certainly had more prime ministers than Labour. I'm not sure they've had more successful prime ministers than Labour, though. And I think the reality is, here we are, 13 years into a Conservative government, tax burden at its highest level since the war, public services are on their knees, economic growth is tiny or non-existent. People can see through exactly where the Conservatives are. I doubt we could name one public service a better place than 2010. So whether it's Farage, Johnson, Sunak, Cameron, pick your former Tory Prime Minister or politician of the past, it's